I think you've got me wondering if I should actually go in and change my name to just Chris Perez. Well, I'm using my last name. You don't have to use your last name, but here I'll go Locker Gnome. And there we go. See, it's even. There's parity between the two, you know, like evenness. I like the okay, hang on. Okay, so I don't need to use my last name now. Here we go. Okay, now I'm just Chris. Does that make more sense?
Sure, whatever. If
you don't care,
my first name, I can do that too.
It works. Now all I need is I need a cap. Oh, look at this! Look! Oh, I'm now live on you. Look, I'm live on YouTube. Learn how to be an entrepreneur. Doesn't that sound exciting?
Extremely.
Doesn't that sound interesting? Like learning how to be something, and maybe you were that anyway and didn't realize you were. Right? Hello, Galaxy. I am Chris Perillo, aka Locker Gnome, or the Locker Gnome. It was an old high school nickname. We're gonna have to figure out. I'm gonna ask you about how you got yours. I originally used Locker Gnome without intercapping it, so it was a capital L and a lowercase g. And then over the years, I realized it was a lot easier to tell people or explain to people, well, this is what it is, by intercapping Locker Gnome. And of course, it means absolutely nothing. And to this day, I'm kicking myself for not using something better. And so I have to grow mustaches to, compensate for the lack of good branding. My avatar does not have a mustache in it, at least not that I know of. At least this time. But
we need to add a mustache to your puppet.
I'm telling you, I love those who can grow the mustaches and like the curl. Like that would be, if I had a goal, it would be to have a curly like once in my life. It'll never happen because my hair, it curls on its own. So like it would curl, but it'd be like, I'd look like, what was his name? He was an alien in the cantina, and his tendrils were poisonous. Hang on, I'm seeing if I can find that's Evazon. I swear to God, I've got like all my Star Wars, not all of them, but like so many of my Star Wars Cantina figures up here, including, you remember him? Do you remember this character at all?
Oh yeah, yep.
So yeah, Luke sold his land speeder to that guy. And I don't know, man. I swear I had it, but I can't. I don't know. Hang on. No, those are just Biff. There's a random Biff, Snaggletooth. No. I'm dropping all my Cantina characters, Tech Jeeper. This is not cool. But you can't even see what I've printed this week, can you? Look, so who was it? He goes by a handle on X. See, look, can you believe it? I said X, not Twitter. Believe that or not. He goes by a handle, and you may have crossed paths at least virtually. And by the way, we are live there as well. See if I can find reprinted 3D.
Okay. Yep.
So he didn't. Sometimes he's tagged me, but he didn't tag me on this particular artist. And I went to this artist page. His name is Peter Farrell on Printables. Check this out. So have you been keeping up on Andor?
Not really.
Okay, so then this wouldn't make any sense to you.
Yeah.
Either way, this particular relic showed up in Andor. I think it was episode 2 of season 2, and he already modeled it. I'm like, oh my god, this guy Peter Farrell on Printables. I downloaded like 160 of his models. The crazy amount of Star Wars stuff, including this is someone else did this. Someone else made this. I found a land speeder Benchy. Isn't that great? Yeah, this. It's not a perfect Benchy though, but like it would be like, and then I did, let's see here. This is another Benchy I found, not from Peter, but a TIE Fighter Benchy, right? That fun?
Yeah, there was a bunch of them come out because of the 10-year anniversary or whatever.
Okay, so I figured it was something.
Yeah.
I figured there was something going on.
Maker World had a competition for a Benchy remix.
There we go. That made sense. Peter also did like little shot glasses of like Darth Vader and Ahsoka, and I think BB-8 too. And then recently, this is another trend that I've seen in 3D printing, where they will take like a casual hoodie, baggy jeans, and then like a helmet or a head. And I found this model, again, not by Peter, by someone else, but look at how Vader's helmet sculpt is just like a perfect, I guess, hood right on the top of his head. But I've printed 6 or 7 different ones, like usually with stormtrooper helmets, and I've got them in my bathroom because they're all like casual. Don't worry, did not break. Nothing broke. Nothing was breaking in the process of showing off what I've been printing recently. Yeah, so I've got like all these things sitting on the desktop, and I'm diving deeper and deeper into what Peter has been producing. So if you've not seen Peter's, and if you don't have the link directly, let me make sure I get that to you. And for whatever it's worth, hello, Karen. Good to see you as well. Would love to have you on sometime because I think you fit the mold of an entrepreneur and Matt Evans Tech, a very hyper local and hyper, let's face it, because, you know, that's what it takes to be around me physically. Matt is another local to me, and he's going to be helping with putting together a Maker World, I'm sorry, wrong domain, Maker DAC IRL. So actually getting together physically, geophysically here in the Pacific Northwest. And Matt's here. I catch most of this stuff on Instagram. I don't know why. I don't know how. I've seen a lot of the casual stormtroopers. Some of them have problems with their feet. But for the most part, the casual stormtroopers have been a lot of fun. And for whatever it's worth, we're on topic, right? Number 1, we're geeking out. Number 2, we're with a fellow maker. And number 3, some of the things that we're going to talk about in terms of how Cody, aka Tech Jeeper over here, has been harnessing technology, I feel is of extreme interest to people who are into 3D printing in general. 2 things, at least 2 things, if not more. And Cody, aka Tech Jeeper. See, I only know you by Tech Jeeper, so I'm probably going to refer to you as that. Okay, I'm just saying, just so if I say that, I don't think you're going to take offense. You wouldn't take offense, would you?
No.
Okay. Good, because my fence is falling apart. The last thing you'd want to take is offense, because it would not carry well with live streaming. So Tech Jeeper has been an amazing help in terms of what I feel most people have envisioned for what MakerDeck is and can be, and that's largely how I know him. And when we were the royal we were doing these live streams around kind of being entrepreneurs, using technology, harnessing technology, talking about using AI to refine, develop, extend, and all the, everything in the realm of AI or technology. Tech Jeeper was in and following the bouncing ball when Matt and I were doing it. And so I knew the stuff that he was working on. He had back channeled a couple of the things that he had, and how we'll dive into this, how AI has, I feel, augmented or supported your underlying abilities, certainly none of which I have. I mean, even with 3D printing, I don't have the ability to model something. I have the ability to print it, right? Or to talk about it. That's where my expertise begins and ends. But Tech Jeeper has got, I would imagine, a hefty background in lifting virtual code. Can I say lifting code? That kind of makes sense in a creative way.
Yeah, I mean, I am not a developer. I'm not a developer by trade. I have done development work in the past, but since it was a career, it's been over 10 years.
Oh wow! Okay, so you've actually got technology, or at least coding.
Yeah, I work in the software field. I'm what's called a solution engineer. So
okay,
I basically have to make what the developers make real to customers.
Okay.
So it's a fun challenge. Fortunately, the industry that I work in has really quickly adopted the AI stuff. Before I was a software engineer, before I was a solution engineer, I worked on an automation team. So automation's always been really big part of what I've done. If I have to do a task more than once, I'm going to write a script for it. I mean, that's just how it's always been. PowerShell script, shell scripts. I mean, those types of things, Python.
It's process, right? It's
correct.
figuring out the process, figuring out how to replicate it ad infinitum, right?
I'm lazy is what it boils down to.
No, I mean, that's...
No, I'll completely admit that I automate because I'm lazy. I don't want to do it more than once.
No, I would not say that, because I would optimize the hell out of anything. Like, if I saw a process that just seemed kludgy and like, why are we doing like these 14 steps? How do we like narrow it down to like just not exactly point click, but something that would be streamlined enough that it's explainable. It's something that couldn't be like getting it down to the point where it couldn't be automated further.
Yeah, one of my first jobs, I was it's Windows administrator, and one of the systems that I supported was 16 servers, and the application that it hosted, it had to be, when we patched it, it had to be patched once a month. You had to patch it in a very certain order. Like, you had to take down half of them, bring up the other half. And so it literally took me like 8 hours on the weekend sitting there patching these servers. And one of the first things I did to learn the power of PowerShell was sit down and I wrote a pretty massive PowerShell script. But I woke up Sunday morning, clicked go, checked back in an hour, and it was still running, doing its thing. I didn't have to actually touch it. So again, those types of things that, that, and then what was nice about that is I was actually able to take and hand that off to lower level engineers to take care of at that point, because it was completely automated. You didn't actually have to sit there and babysit it. So really, it's just quality of life. And with the new technologies that come out, you mentioned that you're a 3D printer and you're not a designer, but with the new technology that's coming out, anybody can build scripts, anybody can build software. It's crazy. I mean, you used to have to be a developer, you used to have to have this huge development background, and now as long as you know how to use the tools and understand the tools, you can get a minimal viable product within a really short time frame, and then you can work on polishing it, understanding the code, kind of understanding what everything's doing, and then make it, that last quarter mile, take it to that. So,
but see, this is where I'm going to dovetail in terms of, and maybe my background as an independent creative, as an entrepreneur, right? Maybe the more, I don't know if I'd say traditional sense, but taking an idea that was working, building a business around it. Maybe you took a different, approach to, maybe it could be an entirely non-similar approach, but what you just said speaks to the heart of what is so fascinating to me at this point in time. It's something that I'm still wrapping my head around.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that can be done, and it seems like every time I turn around, one tool is leapfrogged another, and it got easier and better and better. I'm still not sure it's quite at Chris Pirillo level of ease, but where there's a will, there's a way, and I feel that was where I kind of got my start with Locker Gnome, way back in the day in '96. I knew enough to be dangerous. I knew enough, okay, well, here's how an email newsletter works, and here's how a website works, and this is what we need to do on the marketing side, this is what we need to do on the business side, and I made it work. And I never could have imagined being at this point in time where I could effectively ideate, effectively say, all right, here's what I'd like to do. This is what I'm thinking. As someone who I feel would be as much as I know about technology, I mean, I know this is a Samsung device. I know I'm using a MacBook, right? I know technology, but maybe not intimately. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? Take cheaper. Not that you go to bed with your laptop. I assume you don't. That's a total assumption. Do you leave it? Is it off to the side?
I don't know. It depends on what I'm doing.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm no judgment here. So, for me, the idea that I could be putting a product manager cap on, a non-technical product manager, be able to define the scope of what it is that I'm looking for and effectively hand it over to virtual engineers to flesh out, right, and be creative with, has been, I would say, a very eye-opening experience. And Matt, who had been a part of some of these earlier streams, he's focusing on something else right now, but has developed. He renamed it AutoPin, which I feel is very apt as the platform that you saw ideating live and in real time. That I know of, it may very well be MVP status. I have not actually tried it because I wouldn't even know where to begin. And I know there are ways, all I have to do is install X, Y, and Z. I'm like, no. I'm all in the cloud. Like I'm sold on the cloud. I want to live in the cloud. So being able to tell a computer, however, computer's everything anymore. I feel like, Scotty, like, here's my mouse. It's not corded. Damn it. I dropped my mouse. Can I pick up my mouse? I'm gonna do the Star Trek 4 thing. Computer. And he's talking. Tell me you remember that.
Yeah.
Just tell me, because
yes,
if you don't, okay, good. I remember seeing that in the theaters, laughing. I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. You can't interface with a computer like that. Now you can. Well, or close to it, close enough. And we'll keep getting closer and closer and closer. So to be able to ideate and harness the power of technology, being non-technical, is what's exciting for me, because I know that there are people who, could bridge that gap between the non-technical and, let's say, the more technical realm, like where you sit, to better be able to help the non-technical succeed or find success on a path that previously was not open, quite honestly.
Yeah,
So,
right now it's truly, it's always been, if you dream it, you could build it. But it was like, you would have to spend years and years dedicated to learning technologies and learning, the ins and outs of everything. And now it's, you dream it, you could build it in a day, and you have a whole army of workers at your disposal to help you come up with the business plan, and help you come up with the project plan, and help you come up with the implementation plan, and then actually going and implementing the code. It's crazy.
I see it. I'm not there yet, and I say that as a non-technical person who's had, I'm sure you, like, a list of ideas, like they're a dime a dozen. It's not the idea, it's the execution, and to be able to, we'll everything is swimming around the same kind of idea of being nerdy in general, right? Liking technology and harnessing technology and figuring out what to do with it to benefit other people, and to potentially just be a part of something larger than yourself, potentially even part of something that you couldn't have imagined, a business or the prospect of a business. So I definitely want to come back to, and we will, some of the things that you've started to work on independent of any kind of, that I know of, any kind of professional front, more on the personal front, and specifically where that crosses over with our interest in 3D printing. But we've got I'll say it this way: AutoPin exists on GitHub. Anybody could take it, fork it, whatever. It's potentially ready enough to be released as, and I haven't even looked. I've seen it, but again, seeing it run and being able to give feedback is not where I am yet with any one of these tools, whether it's Claude.
So, really, literally all you would have to do is take that GitHub URL, pop it into ChatGPT and say, tell me the steps to implement this in the cloud. And it's going to go out there, look at the URL, and it's going to come back to you and say, step 1, go into this service, create an account. Step 2, upload the code to this account. Step 3, load these libraries. And it's going to walk you through that. That's the crazy thing about the AI stuff today.
That's where it adds up, right? Like figuring out, well, where is that going to fit? Where is it going to? I'm sorry, I cut myself on a cardboard. I got a Grogu. I'm not flipping you off. There's a Grogu bandage there. Not a 3D printing mistake. This was grabbing the cardboard box a wrong way, 50-year-old mistake. long story. So, okay, so I could give it that. It tells me what to do, assuming
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
it's no different. So again, if you go out to the GitHub, there's the README, so it gives you the instructions. It's no different than what we would do, two, even a year ago or 2 years ago, which was look at the first thing. It gives you what the steps are going to need to do. What would you do? Go and Google that. How do I do this? And then you go to the next one and say, how do I do this? And then you would learn each one of those steps individually. But the AI does that for you, and it just walks you through it.
My feeling, because it's not a personal project, because it's something that would involve monetary value, what we're talking about is an idea that I had based upon an ebook that I basically had written and fleshed out in AI. I wanted to build a tool that would help anybody create an ebook, flesh it out in AI, and then turn around and be able to sell it, right? This is the tool we're talking about. It's called AutoPen, AutoPen. It's available on GitHub. Like, it's the files are there. They do exist. My gut tells me, yes, I could go that route, but then I know enough about me that I'm going to get stuck. And I know ChatGPT or any of these tools will say, this is what you got to. I know, knowing it would hallucinate everything.
Well, that's gotten a lot better though. If you give it boundaries, if you give it parameters, say this, I want to deploy this. I want to make sure to keep security in mind, and I want to make sure to keep cost in mind. As it goes through that, it's going to again keep those in considerations as it generates each step. It's going to end up being better than you going out there and Googling and looking on Reddit or looking.
Oh my God, totally. But I totally get that, and I totally.
Or paying some random guy or some random stranger on Fiverr to deploy it.
I'm the random stranger. That's the problem. My gut tells me that in what is there now, I want to try to find. I don't know if it's a separate company. I don't know if it's a startup. I know it's a project, and I know that it has the potential for being like a lifestyle type of project, which is most, if not all, of everything that I've done. Everything going all the way back has been, they say lifestyle. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur in the sense that I haven't gone after funding. I bootstrap. I try to generate revenue without necessarily spending more than is being made, and that's the way that I think. But I do believe that something like this, the AutoPen project that was ideated or fleshed out using AI tools, could potentially be something more. I don't know what, but my gut tells me finding a counterpart who could run the technical end of things would be what I would need to do to go from point A to point B. And I know this based upon everything that I've learned in the startup realm. They say, well, a lot of VCs, I've never messed with them, would be looking not just for, one founder, but a founder with a co-founder, like a team of at least two.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, right? Not just because of the monothink, but being able to bounce feedback off each other, having complementary skill sets, being more than just one person. So I know that inevitably for something like that to succeed, I would need to find someone who would basically match the vision, alignment, and certainly have the skill sets that I might not necessarily have directly in relation to technology. But it's never been a lack of idea. It's never been a lack of a product idea. Those are things that I've executed on as sloppily as I've done over the years. They have paid the bills, right? They've worked at a fundamental level. So that's where, I feel that I am with something like that, where it's been ideated. Maybe a basic prototype might work. I've been thinking, okay, well, do I put it on LinkedIn and say, here's what I've done, here's what's been baked. Would someone like to run with this with me to see what happens, right? That's
but again, you built that. You got that far in months versus years, which is where you'd be before. You'd be
Matt, took my, and maybe I don't think there's a service in this, but because at this point, it's kind of like saying, oh, you can get a job as an AI prompter, right? Well, that's inevitably going to be replaced by AI. We know that, right? If it hasn't already, right? I'm sure that job role title is drying up if not now, then at some point. But to be able to take a product manager's idea and help create what it is that can ship, that to me is it. There are a lot of potentials and possibilities. It's the marketplace of connecting people like me who may have a little bit of technical know-how, but have a certain subject matter expertise with the people who have a lot more technical know-how and maybe a little subject matter expertise to find complementary skill sets. And that's where I was with Matt, and he took the ball and he ran with it, which was great. But now we've got what it is, and I believe it works. Like I said, I haven't actually run it. I haven't seen the current iteration of it, but my feeling is what I'll need to do is kind of get it running at a basic level, and then pitch, whether using, I don't know if you've seen this resource. It's on Y Combinator Startup School, where you can sign up either as a technical founder looking for a non-technical, or a non-technical looking for a technical. It's a matchmaking service, and of course their hope is to basically make connections and then fund the ideas that come out of that. I met someone I met someone just by doing these live streams who told me about Startup School. But I think that there's an underlying need for maybe someone who knows a little bit, like you, knows your realm, but then people more like me who may know a little bit about your realm, but know a lot in this other space. And then coming together and creating new business opportunities, creating new, opportunities in the marketplace, the greater marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting because the role of project manager, the role of the people that go and define those projects and products. The last couple of things I've used AI to build, the first thing I do is ask it, look at the industry. Here's my idea. Look at the industry. Give me, top 5 ideas for that. And then I take that and I tell it to build me a project file. So it's building that project plan out with AI. And then I take that and say, okay, now take this project file and build an implementation plan. And then it goes out there and creates a phased implementation plan. And then I then turn around and use AI to implement that phase by phase. So you're doing all of those steps just using AI instead of having to. Product managers are not fun to work with normally because they're always like timeline, budget. Yep. Whereas if I can just talk to an AI and have it, give me all of the information, all of the market details, everything that's already out on the web anyways, you can really streamline that process. So.
Which, that to me is the real wake up. I mean, one real wake up call, right? We're seeing a massive shift, I feel, in roles, expectations, organizations, really the landscape of ideas shifting radically. Instead of having 200-person teams, you can now execute just as effectively, if not more so, with 20-person teams. And this is where I say, I'll come back to the idea. Well, I guess it's an idea, really a posit. There's never been a better time. Sorry if I spiked the audio there. I get excited. To be an entrepreneur and to lean in and try, right? Something using these tools. So what I would do, or what I would want to do is, like, let's say if I had an idea, I would want, at this point, help stair-stepping through, okay, well, I've got the idea. And as you said, Tech Jeeper, running it through, doing an analysis, and then figuring out where to go from there to be able to get to something that is a working prototype, pre-MVP, right? And then figuring out what it's going to take to get from prototype to MVP, which is a completely different ballgame.
I mean, the one thing AI can't do is creative thinking, is coming up with new ideas. I mean, it's using the information that's in the massive data sets. So people like you that have, new creative ideas that they're bringing to market, then now you have a path forward to take that idea and run with it once you have that. And I think that's really where the people still come in. I mean, it's coming up with those new creative, unique ideas and running with them.
My God, I'm where do I begin? I mean, I saw an opportunity for, and I had this idea years ago, and it did get baked as a prototype. Media kits, dynamic media kits. Someone eventually launched the product. I don't know, it may have been taken down. When I looked on the web for it, it was gone. It was completely, this media kits product was just completely gone. It did not exist. And it could be, oh, maybe this is why it got acquired. No, that was 3 years ago. That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I was thinking like a dynamic media kit where I could go, we could create this tech cheaper. I'm just saying, anybody out there, we could create this. So like, the idea would be someone needs an idea, hey, we know about you, Chris, where's your media kit? Well, last time I updated it was in September. I don't know. As opposed to going, hey, here's the URL. Go to blah, 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 blah.com. If that has not been registered yet, feel free to grab it because, someone like blah, 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 .com. It's a good URL, honestly. I'd be surprised if it wasn't registered at this point. But the idea is that you could go there /username and see an up-to-date media kit of, let's say, their Twitch account and their YouTube account and X and Facebook, where Instagram, whatever, dynamically. Like the data is pulled dynamically, an amalgamation of the data that the APIs allow to be pulled, like age, various demographic information, age, location, gender, etc., to present a dynamic media kit right up front. And that was something that I wanted years ago, didn't have the ability to do it, ended up trying to work with a couple of local people, designers who worked in WordPress, and they mocked up a working prototype very quickly in WordPress. Unfortunately, a lot of the other things that came around it fell through. And I say unfortunately because these people were incredibly skilled, incredibly talented, and I would have loved to have worked with them. But the business didn't make it. The business side of things, which I wasn't necessarily as familiar with, the idea of funding and scaling and all that stuff. I'm like, no, I'm the idea guy. Like I'm the wacky guy who says, you know what? We're gonna create a Twitch channel that streams people 3D printing 24/7, and people come in, they come out, and they chat, and that's it. And then 3 years later, MakerDeck still exists, of all things. So it's sometimes the business prospect around it can kill an idea as quickly as it can be developed.
So if you would have done that 3 years ago, do you think it would become obsolete eventually by things like Google Deep Research and things like that? Because if I wanted to figure out something about you, I would go out to Google Deep Research and ask for a detailed report about Chris Perillo. And it's going to come back with 600 search results. It's going to come out with a detailed report. It's going to have every little piece of information about you. And I didn't have to pay a dime.
So you're saying that, and for whatever it's worth, this is very timely, Tech Cheaper. Google just announced that they're rolling out Notebook LM.
Yep.
If I'm if I'm getting the title or the name,
I think that's correct. I think that's what it's called.
I'm pretty sure it's a little geeky. Notebook LM. So I mean, I thought MakerDeck was kind of kludgy, but Notebook LM works. So they're rolling out an Android and an iOS version of Notebook LM, which will help organize thoughts, do deep research on things. You're almost suggesting a paradigm shift. I don't think this was the reason you asserted this in media kits or doing deep research on one person or another.
So the user experience in general, we had the company that I work for, we just had a major shift, and the new shift is essentially no UI is the new UI, meaning everything is conversational, everything is chat. People don't want to use tools. People don't want to log into things and do stuff. They want to be able to just ask a bot to do something.
Yep.
And that bot goes out there and uses API calls and all of the different pieces to bring all that information back. I mean, that's really where AI, I mean, that's the whole agentic AI thing. You've seen Cursor in action. If you tell a cursor to be an agent, it goes out there and actually makes edits to code, and it'll actually run commands, and it'll do all of these different things. Having that personal assistant for you, so you don't actually have to go out and do anything. So, 100 years down the road, we're just going to be like in WALL-E, where we're just going to be floating around in bubbles, and things are just going to be happening.
This is what gets me not worried, but thinking what's going to happen when our social contract changes. Because right now, at least in America, right, we live in a capitalist system. I got to pay my electric bill, I got to pay my water bill, I got to pay everything. But if I can't figure out how to do that, how's it going to happen? And if other people can't figure out how to do that, how's that going to happen, right? Yeah. And this is what really, this is a total mind flip, right? Like, how's that going to work? Like, if everything's been replaced by these agentic systems, right? This conversational system. There's going to be more and more value around creativity, because again, as of right now, AI is not creative. It goes out there and looks at patterns and pulls in information that's out there. So the creative minds are going to be more and more valuable. So this is where, I'm glad you said that, Tech Jeeper, because my idea of launching this like live video series was to work with people in a live capacity to ideate something, right? Like, okay, over the course of a couple hours, we'll figure out how to create, ideate and launch something new. And whether that's 2 people, 3 people, 4, I don't care. I don't know. I'm just like, this is crazy. But it comes down to that creative idea.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I am wrestling with right now, before we dive into what you're doing with Printventory and beyond, I currently am like a freelancer with, at least a couple different companies, but one company in particular, I work with the New Stack, and they are a media outlet founded by an old colleague. I guess I'd say Alex is a friend at this point, way back in the early days of podcasting and the tech events that I used to run. But I am basically the host for webinars. So conversations like this. This is not a webinar. It's not sponsored, but they basically sign on sponsors, and I help facilitate the conversation, keep it lively, keep it dynamic, keep it flowing, keep it going, make sure everything's happening on camera where it really counts. And what I've learned is that is an extreme value, especially in an area, or I guess a segment of the market that is typically dry. Enterprise technology is typically very dry. And I bring a little bit, or I'd like to believe I bring a little bit of spice to it. Not too much, right? Not Cholula level, maybe tahini, just a very basic, a little flavor. So I know there's a value to that. The problem I might have is being able to market that, or update my LinkedIn profile such that okay, I've got to look up the definition of this word before I use it. This is definitely not right. Okay, I was going to use the word comport, which I guess accord or agree with, to conduct oneself or to behave, to basically be in alignment with what it is that I want. So if I do this really well for this company, and I'm signing on new clients, or want to sign on new clients, they have to be able to find me. Now, I could go to Fiverr, this massive marketplace of, good people. Don't get me wrong. I'm making no judgments whatsoever. But like, if a company wanted to find a host for live video or webinars, or kind of keeping these virtual events going or flowing, I don't know where they would go necessarily. Or I would want to be able to create that marketplace for them. Could I go to bubble.io and roll my own? Yes, but I would probably have to rely on a template from somebody else. Or could I effectively build a marketplace for virtual hosts, virtual event hosts, these creatives, right, who have this ability to communicate and keep the conversation focused and flowing? Could I create that? And so that's an idea that doesn't necessarily exist. And it's something that would be taken, that idea, that creative idea, plucked and ideated upon with key individuals. And I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm not singling you out, but people like yourself that could take that ball and run with it like Startup Weekend used to do, right? You had an idea, you run with it, and at the end of the weekend, there's something that works at a basic level and could be launched into a full-fledged whatever. And I feel that that's where we are. If not now, then certainly at some point in the future. It's that accessible. Technology is that accessible even for non-technologists. And I know I'm saying that, but it is.
I mean, it's definitely getting there. And I mean, when pretty much every kid in school nowadays is using AI in one term or another. I mean, they're really going to be basically an AI native.
It's a given
generation.
It's a given.
So again, going forward, if you don't learn to adopt those tools and you don't learn to use those tools, just like the cell phone and the internet, you're going to fall behind.
But here's the thing: these tools are getting savvier and savvier and savvier on their own, or at least the workflow around them, right? What I might need to do, the amount of lifting I might need to do to accomplish a task today is not going to be as heavy as it will be a year from now. For example, ChatGPT or OpenAI, or I guess as a company, but specifically ChatGPT, the product, being able to ideate a thumbnail, right? A year ago, it didn't exist, right? It was very challenging. It couldn't really work well, but now, bam, it's done. As long as you know what to say and how to say it, when to say it. That is, to me, the hockey stick, right? If you look at a graph, right, nothing, then all of a sudden, boom. That's where I feel the technical know-how or the need to know how to ask for something and what to ask for, that delta is getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer in terms of we're approaching that. Not to say we're approaching a singularity, but maybe we are, I don't know. But the idea that I would not need to have as much understanding of what you laid out before TechTuber, of asking an AI tool, whatever one you use, Perplexity, Claude, ChatGPT, you name Gemini, whatever. And Meta now rolling out a dedicated app for this kind of thing. Although I don't think Meta is, the Llama LLM is going to be going down that path. I could be wrong. To be able to speak to what it is that you want as a result and have everything else just kind of run. Whereas everybody is effectively able to do what they'd normally have to rely on other people to do. So these teams that, again, used to require 200 people now require 20, where do those other jobs go? Well, if everybody's effectively a product manager, and these tools make it easier to be a product manager, being creative with that idea, that's great to be creative with an idea. But if no one can get a job, how are they going to pay for the thing that you're making? We haven't figured that out yet. And that's Baratunde, he spoke to this over the past week, and this is something that it's been clawing at me. And I've been trying to stay ahead of it as much as I possibly can, knowing full well it's coming down the pike. But again, it's fun right now. Like the early days of email, it's fun. I think within a few years, it's going to be a lot more serious because opportunities are going to be aplenty. What used to be easy is now difficult. What used to be difficult is now easy, right? And finding yourself at the delta, at that crossroads, is, I hope, organic, like this. Like, we're not AI. Creative,
yet.
Like this. We're not AI. I think there's going to be a I posit, and I would like to believe, hopeful thinking, wishful thinking, that the creativity that we have, that human spark, is what is going to keep us going forward. But even then, what are we going to do if nobody can get a job? What are we going to do if nobody can afford to pay for the things that we're creating for them? Or tools or opportunities? It's going to dry up. And I don't mean white collar, blue collar, right? It's not about that, because I feel it crosses the chasm like never before, because we all deal with these real world scenarios, and keeps me up at night. but also keeps me feeling hopeful. And maybe it's my idealistic Star Trek world living thinking, not to cross the streams between Star Wars and Star Trek, but the idea that technology could be used to further us. It's the question of the economy, stupid. I'm not calling you stupid, but they, the saying is, it's the economy, stupid. I'm the stupid one. Don't.
I mean, it's the technology has been there. If you think about it, I mean, there's been nothing stopping for the past since Google or since the internet was invented. There hasn't been anything stopping somebody from going out and learning a skill. I mean, it was all at their fingertips already. What we did is we're quickly reducing that barrier. So when I was in school, one of the most beneficial classes I took by far was called Research Internet PowerPoint. It taught me how to do search queries. And after I learned that, I'm like, I can do anything I want. Literally, if I want to do anything, I can go out there and find, exactly what I'm looking for. And so that's just getting easier and easier. But I mean, going back to what I was saying before, the creativity is still what the most valuable thing is. I mean, that hasn't really changed either. The creative ideas are the ones that succeed or fail miserably, but usually are the ones that are going to be the ones that are going to change the game. The smartphones of the world and the different, if you go back to the technologies that we have today, back 10 years ago, it would have blown anybody's mind. Even 3D printing, we're talking about that earlier, and it's like, you go back 5 years and tell me that I would have a printer that would cost $50,000 sitting next to me that I paid a couple grand for with the bamboos, I would have been like, you're crazy. That's never going to get there. And now they're basically appliances. Anybody can pick it out, pull it out of the box, and get printing in 5 minutes.
Yeah. So speaking of, good segue, you were and have been developing a tool, a service, if you will. I don't want to minimize its value or its impact, that specifically is geared for people who have to deal with, like me, like a copious amount of files. Files that I might want to print, files that I have printed, things that I want to make. So you've got, if you will, I'm staging, I'm giving you, hey,
yeah,
this is what you've been doing, Printventory. And so I'm curious about what it is that you've been up to, what it is that you were doing with it, maybe how AI and these tool sets have helped refine what it is that you put out there, and really, I guess the bottom line, what it is that you have for people to use today, right now, printventory.com. And if you want to share your screen, you're more than welcome. I apologize for my phone just clicking over. Could you hear the clicks?
I don't. Maybe I did. I don't know.
Oh, it could be. This is a great noise cancellation system that they've got with StreamYard. But if you want to share,
yeah, I'll share in a minute. But first, okay, I'll talk about kind of again how that came to be. And
Printventory.
Yeah, so it's Printventory. It's basically a 3D model library management solution. The backstory behind it was we started with the company I work with had a charity going, and they were taking toy donations, and they were asking for people to donate different toys. So I reached out to them and I'm like, can I donate some 3D printed toys? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely, that'd be great. So got the approval from Pick Some Dude, and I was going to send them a box of the vehicles. And I was like, I know I have these on my system. I searched for like 10 minutes, and again, going back to what I was talking about earlier, I'm lazy. So I was like scrolling, did Windows search. It sat there and spun, didn't find anything. Finally just went out to Printables and re-downloaded it. I downloaded it in my downloads folder, and it was like number 8. And I'm like, okay, I have 8 copies of this thing in my downloads folder. Started the prints, went to bed. Woke up the next morning, I'm like, there has to be a better way to inventory that. Is it putting it in a spreadsheet? I want to keep track of what I have, because I don't want to just have to keep going out there and downloading things. Especially, if you had a paid model, a lot of those sites, you are limited to the number of downloads you get. So I was like, okay, I looked around, saw a couple of solutions out there. There was one that was, not maintained in a while. There was a couple other ones that were little bit more complicated to set up. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to throw something together on my own just to kind of do it for personal use. Threw together a program that basically stored scanned a directory for different types of files and stored them in a database. And then I had just a really basic front end that just listed the files so I could search for them. It was just a lot quicker to be able to search an index database. And then started talking to people and they're like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. So I decided to spend some time, ready it up a little bit, and then release kind of a proof of concept to see if anybody would be interested in it. There was quite a bit of interest in it. So over the past few months, we've been working on flushing it out, getting it production, quote unquote, ready for public release, adding new features. Some of those are AI. So we've actually incorporated things like AI tagging. So it actually looks at the model and determines what it is and will tag it for you. Those types of things to make the life easier for the user. And then this past, was it yesterday, the day before, we released what was called version 1 of the release of the solution. Now, initially, I dusted off my programming background, which the most I did back in programming was a lot of web design, which I kind of stayed up on over the years. So I looked at what was out there, decided to go with Electron, which is a desktop deployment that's basically Chromium, so it's really web-based. So I was familiar with the code and kind of got that initial version pumped out there. And then the whole wave of like, okay, everybody's AI programming now came along. So I started looking at that and started using first Visual Studio, had the Copilot plugin for doing debugging, and that was a huge help. If somebody comes along and says I'm having issues with, it's not sorting them correctly or it's not loading things correctly or whatever, I could literally just drop the error in instead of having to go out to Google or go out to Reddit or go out to the Stack Overflow and things like that and search for answers. It took me 2 seconds to get the answer. So, and then going from there to, like the new technologies with Cursor and stuff like that, I can give it a video of what things are doing and it will interpret that video and it'll tell me exactly in the code where I need to fix this change and things like that. So it really, I would still probably be in the first month phases, if it wasn't for the expedited being able to use AI for debugging and stuff like that. And then since then, I've used AI to front a lot of projects because I'm like, wow, this is super powerful. I want to be able to use this more up front. So there's been a couple of projects that I've worked on where I start closer and closer to the beginning. And I've created a couple recently where it's like, again, give it the idea, have it build the project plan, have it build the implementation plan, have it build the to-do list, and then just step through it, and have AI spit out, again, a really, really complete minimal viable product that I can go and polish up and get to that last quarter mile of the effort. So, yeah, it's been huge. AI has been extremely helpful. But again, the initial idea, there was ideas out there. It didn't have all of the features that were in Printventory, and I couldn't find the perfect solution, so I went out there and built it.
You made it.
Offering it to the community for free. I'm probably going to open source it. Because I hadn't programmed in a while, and this is something that AI actually does better. And if I would have started with AI, I probably wouldn't have ran into it. But because I hadn't programmed in a while, I got 2 months into the project and realized I have a very unyieldy, monolithic application that I need to then go and put them into functions and stuff like that and chop it out, because I'm dealing with like a 7,000 line file of code to do things. So that's kind of what I'm working at now is breaking those functions out. And then once I get it cleaned up a little bit, so it's not embarrassing, I'm going to probably put it out there for people to work on and collaborate on. But yeah, it was extremely helpful. Again, but things that AI will never replace is, the team of testers that I had working on it and coming up with new ideas and saying, hey, I never envisioned that people would have like 100 gigs of STLs that they want to scan in. When I did it, I'm like, okay, I have like a 10 gig, downloads directory, couple, maybe 1,000 files. And then the first couple of people that joined the Discord were like, I have 10,000 files. Do you think this will work? And it's like, well, let's find out and see.
Yeah.
They definitely push the boundaries of it. And those are things that, again, there are AI testing tools. but they more look at the consistency of the code and can't, you know, simulate every single type of scenario that's out there and every single hardware scenario and things like that.
Big
so I mean that's really what Printventory is. I can show it.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and let me see if I can share my screen. Hopefully it lets me here.
Might as well. Yeah, that's, you know, like I said, at some point, we, as a species, will be nothing but ideas, which we are today, right? That has kept us going. But ideas that can be more quickly implemented. At which point, what are we going to do with all our time? Like, what are
come up with new ideas?
I mean, know, that's really... but that's great. But how are we going to pay the bills with all of our ideas if nobody is hiring? So again, thinking entrepreneurially, all right, well, create your own thing, create your own business in one way, shape, or form around creativity or beyond.
Yeah. Or get into the world of selling the software that supports it.
There you go.
My professional life, but
that's the thing, selling those skill sets, right?
Yeah.
I feel the same way as being someone who can facilitate conversations, have no problem making connections in person or online. I feel that, like, to the nth degree, and I certainly hope that organic is a premium and continues to be such. All right, so you ready to share your screen?
Sure.
Okay, so I don't know how well it's going to work. First, we're going to become little bubbles. If this works right, if this works well, and then, boop.
Perfect.
See, it worked. All right, what do we got?
I mean, my core objective of this was to keep it simple. So a UI that everybody kind of recognizes. You got the menu on the one side and you have a file grid on the other. It looks just like opening up Windows File Explorer. And in fact, like when I posted it to Reddit a couple of times, there's always somebody that's like, what's the difference between this and Windows File Explorer or Finder and Mac and things like that? And my answer is always that the search in those suck. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. You can preview STLs and you can preview 3MF files and stuff like that in the Windows file browser now. I think Mac supports it too. But trying to find and trying to sort and things like that, you can do it. I mean, you can use metadata and files and stuff like that, but it's not something everybody knows. So what this gives you is the ability to come in here, scan one directory, scan all of your directories, scan your entire drive if you really want to, and start building out your 3D print model library. Now these are local files that live on my system. So you just simply scan them and then you bring them in. And once it's in, you can start managing them. You can tag them. So if I want to click here, I can tell the source, which is where I got it from, which I'm a strong believer that if you share a file to social media or whatever, it's really good to know the source that you got it from. So if I go out there and share a file, it's nice to just come in here instead of having to go hunt that down again on things or printables. Eventually, right now for things, it actually pulls in the model information, the designer and the parent model. If you click the pull button here, unfortunately, because there's so many bots out there scraping STLs and scraping those sites for those scammy, 10,000 STLs for $10 thing that you see on Facebook all the time, a lot of the sites have anti-bot. So I'm actually working with a couple of them to get more direct access. I don't want to be able to download files. I just want to pull information. And then you just go through here and define what the model is. So you specify what model designer it is, specify the parent model, which is, if you have like a arcade cabinet or something like that, all of those are going to be grouped up into a single parent model. And then being able to specify the license. So, on my other computer that I have this populated on, I've got commercial and non-commercial. They're the two groups that I put them in. So that way, if I'm going to a show, I can see which ones I have commercial rights to, and I can focus on those models to make for a show. And then down here is tagging. This just gives you infinite opportunities to go in there and sort even further. You'll see that we actually have this one's tagged as AI tagged. So one of the things that I added is kind of a bring your own API approach. So it supports any of the open API services, so Gemini, OpenAI, DeepSeek, any of the ones. And you can come in here and specify your key. And then at that point, you can just right click on a model and you can say generate tag. It'll send that thumbnail out to the AI, pull down the tags and put the tags into the tool. And then once you have those tagged, you can come up here, and this is really where the power of it is. So once you build your library, if I want to search for, a seat, I can do that, and it'll come back with the parts that have those parts in it, and it gives me all of the pieces that give me that particular search finding. And then you can further, filter by designer, filter by parent model, and all those other things that we've defined down below. So if I again wanted to see seats, I could just click here and pull back just the ones that are tagged seats by the AI. Once you have it in your library, being able to manage it, being able to right click and either open the file with your native tool. So if you have just one slicer installed, it'll open it up in that slicer normally, just like if you double clicked it in the file browser. Be able to open the directory and take you directly to that file. So if I wanted to load this into a slicer, I could just click and drag it over. And then being able to define multiple slicers. So this is one thing I didn't anticipate at the beginning, was people that have multiple slicers that they want to use. So we have a lot of people using this for resin as well as FDM. So they wanted to be able to select, do I open this in Lychee, or do I want to open it in Bamboo Studio? So being able to go up to the settings and define the path of your different slicers and be able to open them up in here, and then just remove and delete from the file. We also have deduplication, so being able to see where the duplicate files are on my system. I've heard some really funny stories about how, I had every file that I had on my hard drive I had twice, and so they were able to actually go through and clean that up and start getting their library a little more cleaned up. Tag manager is just exactly what it sounds, but then also some fun aspects like being able to, if I wanted to just filter by a particular term or model designer, I can click here and it'll do print roulette, where it's actually kind of going through and selecting a random model to print. So if I wanted to say, come up here and say, I don't think I have any of these marked as printed yet, but if I came up here and said, I want to filter by the models that I haven't printed yet, and I could come down here, and if I print block, I could say, I want to find a model to print. And I would click there, and you can't quite see it, but it's bouncing around, doing some fun animations, and then it's picking a random model to sit there and print. So just kind of things to make the tool a little bit more interesting.
So a lot of this then is going to, you've got an automated process here, or a series of processes, but a lot of it would then require manual.
No, so for me on my main system, again, my downloads folder is my folder that everything is stored in. So you can actually define the STL home. So that's your downloads directory. And every time you open up the app, it's going to scan for changes. It's going to remove the models that have been removed. It's going to move the ones that have been moved to different directories. And it's going to add new models in there. So you can do it there, or you can scan the directory. And when you rescan it, it goes through and updates them as well. So, it should keep itself fairly up to date. There's some things that we're talking about in future model or future iterations of it, potentially using like a service that will sit there and watch and keep your library up to date and things like that. But at this time, I mean, it's still, again, a lot easier than dredging through 1,000, folders and subfolders in your downloads directory in order to find the one model that you're looking for. So,
oh, trust me, even when I know what the hell it is I'm looking for, you're right. It's easier to go to the website and remember, I downloaded it from Thingiverse or Thangs or whatever it happened to be. It's just easier. It's faster. So then this is it, Printventory.com. It runs in the cloud. So
nope, it's local, entirely local. It runs on your workstation. I've had people ask about multiple system supports and storing the database on a centralized, share or something like that. And theoretically, you can do it. I haven't tested it, but really, it's meant to just run on your local system because it's managing your local library. And that was one of the differentiators between this and, like I said, there's another one out there that's a client server type of application where you actually had to install a web server on your system in order to run it. And this one, I mean, you can install it, or if you can't install it on a system, you can actually just extract the exe and you can run it portably, which is nice. especially if you have systems that you don't have admin rights on, or if you don't want to give an application admin rights on it.
So this is Windows. This is primarily Windows?
Windows and Mac are the two primary OSs. I actually build it on Mac, which is crazy, but I actually dusted off an old MacBook that I had because you actually have to build Mac OS versions on Mac. So it's easier just to build it on Mac and then port it over and compile it for Linux. But one of the first things that I asked, actually, I kind of did use AI at the beginning to figure out what technology I wanted to use, because I went out to ChatGPT and I said, I want to build a desktop app and I want it to be cross-platform. I think that was my first prompt, and it came back and it gave me a list of options. And Electron was one of those, and it says easily ports between different technologies, all the way from mobile technologies to desktops. And that's what I ended up going with. Before that, I had heard of Electron, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was. So that's what I ended up building it in. I'm going to have a Linux version. I had a Linux version that was built, but my Linux machine that was on a VM, my server died. So I'm in the process of rebuilding that. But it should work across the board. I mean, if you can compile it, theoretically, if you copied it over, you could compile it on an Android device if you wanted to, or an Apple device. I've just never tried that before. I don't know if you. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm primarily Mac OS.
Yeah.
So, and I have the way that I manage things. I don't tag. I typically rename, if anything, before I upload them, before I have them stored. I have a small array of local things that I might print over and over and over again. What would be one? Do I have an example? I don't know if I have an example right now. Although maybe the Hoodie Vader might be something that I would print over and over again in a variety of filaments. So I tag it Hoodie Vader, or stylish hoodie, or put it in a single 3MF file that had multiple types of models within it to be printed en masse. Yeah. I did that for Wexter's little mini dudes, but I shrunk them at 50%, or Fix'em Dudes vehicles, right? Is FDM is Fix'em Dude Motors at 50%, which to my knowledge he's never been able to successfully do. Yeah, I don't think he's ever done them successfully at 50%, whereas I've never printed a full-scale Fix'em Dude motor.
I don't know if I've ever scaled it down. I think I've scaled it up slightly, but I've never actually scaled it down.
I'm all about, I know it's FDM, but I'm all about scaling down, keeping it simple. So, this is it's fascinating to me, because I'm wondering how it fits into my Printventory, fitting into my workflow. And as you said, you're thinking about open sourcing this tool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. People have been like, why don't you charge for it? My wife thinks I'm crazy because I didn't charge for it, because I spent, I don't know how many nights just sitting there in bed until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning working on it. But I mean, my only thought was, if I do, there'll be premium features. And one of the premium features was the AI, because that would have been a cost to me. But it's easy for somebody to go out there and get their own key now. And with Google, you can go out there and get a Gemini key for cheap. So most people have access that are going to use something like that, are going to have access to it. If not, then they can go out there and
plus it becomes there's a difference between doing something for free and charging for it. Because then when you're charging for it, then you've got the cost of charging for it.
I want to be able to just, if I get bored of, I have terrible ADHD and I hyper focus, and again, this is one of my hyper focus projects, but if I ever get tired of this, I don't want to feel tied to it.
Right.
I want to be able to say, you guys have fun with this, I'm going to go do something else.
Knock yourself out.
And I mean, it's again, it started as kind of just an exercise to dust off my programming skills. Alongside this, I had a project for work that I was working on, which was building out a platform for doing one of the internal tasks that we did. And it was PHP and HTML and Python. So that was an opportunity to go in there and brush up on it a little bit before I knew that was coming. It was just for fun. And I like seeing people using it. If people don't want to use it, if it doesn't fit their workload, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all, I use it. I'm working on a 3D sets Jeep right now, which is like a million pieces, and it's like, I think it's like 30 build plates that are populated with different parts. And I've been using it to keep that organized as I've been going through and printing each part, printing each piece, and printing each plate, being able to mark it as printed. Whereas before I'd go into like change the file name to put an X next to it if I knew I printed it and things like that. But being able to get a visual representation of that model and saying, yes, I have printed this, mark it as printed, go on to the next one, be able to tag it as the colors that I want to tag using the tagging, and just kind of keeping it organized that way has been extremely helpful. And then, like I said, trying to find models that I thought I've lost, all of my.
Oh, again, I lost. I don't know how the hell it happened, but I think my daughter, because like one day I went into a directory where they were local. Stupid me. They were local, like files that I had printed, like not G codes, but like STLs, because I wasn't saving a lot of 3MFs at that point. And this is when I was still on the cusp of Prusa and God, I'm blanking. Bamboo. I was going to say MakerBot. I'm an idiot, obviously. But I went in one day and they were all the folders were still there, but the individual STL files were gone. Like they were nuked. And sometimes Jedi would come in, my daughter, and just pound the keyboard. Blah, 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 and I have a feeling she had some kind of keyboard combo where she opened that folder even remotely through the session that nuked all the STL files. So they were gone. Like everything that I had done. And I'm like, well, I'm sure I'm missing a few things, but like very rare, like I'm thinking like Star Wars credits, like the galactic credits like this. But I found a better model out there for the various credits that I was looking for. So I'm like, okay, well, not a big deal, not a major loss apart from not knowing where the hell was that? What was that? What was that titled? Where did I get it? It's gone. It's like completely gone, there and gone. Like a lot of models that I might have had from back in the day had vanished. I've learned that if I want something or might want to print it, to download it, because you don't know if it's going to be there tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, especially with some of the the Star Wars stuff, and
oh my God,
who knows what Disney's going to do with their mass takedowns, and then all of a sudden your models are gone. So.
Yeah, if I see something, I'm like, oh, I'm snatching that. Like if I like an Andor object, right? You're going to see this. I mean, granted, this is not like it's not clear. A Polymaker, a silk white on it. I didn't want to like go in and paint it individually because it would have been more tan.
Yeah, it looks cool.
But yeah, this is basically one of the objects in Andor, and I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan when I see something on a screen. I'm like, ooh, that'd be really cool to print. This guy comes and.
So do you think we'll ever? So along that topic, when you were talking about that earlier, and you said somebody saw that in the show and then they turned around and modeled it. Have you tried to play around with like the picture to model maker that Maker World has? Where you could, I wonder if we'll ever get to the point where you could take a snapshot of a screenshot of a video scene and then Turk and make a model.
It's coming, and it's coming rapidly. So this was the 3D printed Muppet Chris Pirillo. This is one piece. This was done. I can't remember who modeled it, who ended up getting it to work from the Muppet screenshot that we did. It's glow in the dark for whatever it's worth. That's why it goes from green to yellow, but it's a Polymaker filament. But this is a one piece, and it worked really well. Like in just a direct, like not even a scan, but one image created effectively this model. I could have gone in and painted and gone through the filament, but before I knew it, Play Action Toys wound up creating in separate pieces a model, and the only thing that's multicolor is the head. The head was just one piece minus the hair with the glasses. Its nose and eyes and head. Arms are separate, body or torso separate, as well as pants. So AI, I mean, I would say 99% of the way. For what most people might be able to do, or want to do without like wasting a ton of filament, that would be, the process. Not that anybody would want to 3D print a Chris Pirillo Muppet, but being able to take that screen grab of a Muppet Chris Pirillo, producing this, I mean, it was relatively inconsequential.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a game changer for like the prop makers and the people that spend, countless hours dredging over images of, different props that they want to turn around and replicate. Whereas now if they get, combination of 50 different scenes that all have it loaded into AI, tell it to make the model, it's going to look at all the different angles of it, and it's going to give you a product out.
Yeah, it's coming. In fact, from Skeleton Crew, did you see Skeleton Crew? Did you watch it?
No.
Oh, Tech Cheap.
I don't even know what that is. I don't watch. So the TV's usually on, and my wife's usually watching something, but I'm usually watching Twitch or something like that.
Okay.
Or something educational on YouTube.
Okay.
I don't watch TV very often.
Okay, Skeleton Crew is a Star Wars show.
I kind of figured it was.
Is like Goonies in space. That's basically what it was, to contextualize it. And
wait, what's Goonies? I'm kidding.
There was a scene where they basically there were a couple of characters, and they were watching a holo show, like a hologram show, that was lifted directly from, at least the content or the foundation, directly from the Star Wars Holiday Special, which had been written off years ago. Like eons ago is like the worst thing to ever happen.
That I've seen. I've watched that.
Which is amazing. I watch it every year. I love it. It's so campy. It's perfect. Can't imagine a year without it. So what they did, the artists, right, ILM, recreated not just the sights, not just what was going on in the original Star Wars holiday special during this one scene of this, like a circus act of acrobats in this holo projection. Not only did they recreate the visuals, but they had to re-engineer the audio as well. So the audio from the original Star Wars holiday special was redone for the modern era in a modern show. So it was just, seeing that, I'm just like, deep cut, like, oh my God, I'm like, nerdgasm. I can't believe this is going on. It was crazy. So knowing the amount of work that went into that, to re-engineer, to re-architect, to remaster, that, again, coming at that delta, again, the difficulty and the quality is approaching zero. And that is exciting. It's exhilarating. It's fascinating. But at the same time, it's amazing from someone who loves watching, like, just being entertained, right? Oh, this is fantastic. It's realistic, etc. But as a human who has to pay an internet bill and an electric bill and water bill and food bill and all these, who's Bill? I'm so tired of Bill. Done with Bill. So finished with Bill. Someone who has to deal with that economy, that's what has me concerned. And I don't know if, and I know technology always advances. We figure things out as we go along. I don't know if that's going to happen now, because we're talking about hundreds, forget dozens, hundreds of people being replaced. Hundreds. That adds up. And I've seen this happen and play out and happening in just, scoping. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't like going to X because I'm doom scrolling. I don't like to doom scroll. Go to LinkedIn. I tell you what, I've never had more doom scrolling than on LinkedIn, thinking, oh my God, everybody's doing more amazing than I ever could. And they're talking about stuff that I barely understand. And more importantly, when they're talking about these rapid advancements, oh, well, this startup could have been created 10 years ago for 200 people. Now it takes 20. 10 years
and the other half of your feed is people looking for work.
What's that?
And then the other half of your feed is people looking for work.
That's what I'm saying. Like, open to work. And I'm like,
Doesn't help that LinkedIn's basically a job site now. But.
Well, that's all it's been for me. But I've always taken a non-traditional approach. I think I'm LinkedIn user 770 or something like that. Not a joke, not an exaggeration. I was there opening weekend, like in the early days. If they still had like the account number associated with your account, I would be like I'd be sub 1,000 in LinkedIn. Yeah. I was early on. Because it was another social network. I'm like, this is cool. It's like Orkut. It's like Blogger. It's like whatever. I was on board, not having any idea of what it was or the value to me. At least outright, I'd sign up for anything back in the day. That was like 2001, 2002 in that time range. So, it's seeing all of that like all these opportunities counterbalanced with all these people looking for opportunities and not having the ability to take what it is they know and turn it into something that's a marketable asset that has me fascinated with a deeper opportunity of where we are today, but also concerned about where we're going to be tomorrow. So again, to unpack that, fascinated with what's happening today insofar as what you were speaking to, having the idea, being able to execute and get something going. I still need help. I still need guidance, and I'm looking for it. Absolutely. I'm serious. I'd like to get AutoPin going to the point where it's like, this is a working MVP where people could test it, right? People could, the code is there, the foundation is there, and then being able to go, I'm like, I think this may have legs as potentially a lifestyle thing where it pays bills. Does it need to be $1 billion idea? No, I don't think so. But I don't think it, well, number one, I know it's not practical for every idea to be $1 billion, but I feel that the stopgap for tomorrow's economy is coming up with ideas like that, where it's lifestyle, thinking lifestyle entrepreneurship, where you're able to pay the bills, and that's it. And maybe have, one or two people working on something, but you're able to pay more than one bill. And many of the ideas, not all, that I've come up with over the years and executed, there's the key differentiator, not just the idea, but the execution. The ideas that I've executed upon have been in the realm of lifestyle. And I feel that AutoPin as a foundation is a lifestyle product. I feel it could sustain, I feel it could grow, and I feel it could basically support, a few different individuals and pay more than the internet bill on a monthly basis and continue to be interesting. And I think that is where, if the marketplace is, I'm going to prognosticate here, throwing out the big words with such a beer, which is gone, by the way. The Imperial Stout completely disappeared. I feel that the biggest promise and potential is in a lot of lifestyle products and projects that may not be $1 million ideas. They're hundreds of thousands of dollar ideas, but there are more of them. And I feel that's the gap, the chasm that exists for opportunity now. And I feel maybe over the next 10 years, that's my gut.
Yeah. And I think you're for that project in itself, it's kind of in that world of, like we talked about at the beginning, where it's augmenting the work.
Yeah.
So it seems like every kid nowadays that's in school wants to be an influencer, wants to be a YouTuber, wants to be a social media star.
It's true.
They're also getting so used to AI that they don't want to do any work either. So
my daughter,
you're going to eventually get to the point where they're going to be pushing content and things like that, and that's where the platform that you kind of put together comes into play.
Well, and what we're talking about
together,
and to underscore what Tech Jeep was saying, just to fill in the gap, what I was iterating, what I was looking for, based upon, I wrote out 100 tips for entrepreneurs. Could I have fleshed it out? Absolutely. Could it have been a book? For sure. But the problem is, if I put all the work in fleshing out a full-on ebook, and it took all that, like, let's say I spent 3 months on something, and then published it, and maybe one person bought it, oh my God, I'd be devastated.
Yeah, nobody reads
God,
anymore.
All that work for $30.
It better be an audio book, because nobody reads anymore.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, what do I have to do then to basically leapfrog? What tool do I need to take my foundation for knowledge, my foundation for experience, extrapolate intelligently, package into a product, and pitch in position with a call to action and sell? That's the idea behind the AutoPin project, which now exists, again, open source. It's on GitHub. I would like to take that, continue to flesh it out, because I feel it's a lifestyle type of product for me, and potentially for someone who wants to work, with it, massage it, because people that would build upon it would be able to generate revenue from it, and from the revenue they generate, microtransactions, that adds up. So to me, being able to take what it is I know and turn it into something that is sellable in terms of knowledge, not just information, but knowledge, wisdom, is a product in and of itself. That's the idea behind the AutoPin project at this point, which I wouldn't say it's pie in the sky. Code does exist. It does, I believe, work at a fundamental level. I haven't seen it running in a number of weeks, but Matt put it on GitHub. It's there. It's ready. And that's something that I'm very interested in doing, because I want to be able to say, look, I wrote this ebook, but I built the product so that other people can write ebooks for themselves, whatever expertise they have, whether it's in scripting, whether it's 3D printing, whether it's, wood burning, whether it's, this, that, or the other thing, to be able to better sell their knowledge without necessarily having to do the heavy lift of figuring out, how do I encapsulate it? How do I turn it into a product? How do I sell it? How do I generate revenue from the things that I already know? And so to me, AutoPin basically uses AI to basically augment that which is already there, the knowledge which is already there, the expertise that's already there, the person, the persona that's put out there, the influencer that's put out there as, I'm knowledgeable in X, Y, or Z. People want to know, well, Chris, how do I get started in 3D printing? Oh, I say go to MakerDeck, right? That's, head over there, ask questions. Right? Or how do I do X, how do I do it at a deeper level? Well, how do I generate an ebook that I can turn around and sell for $5 or whatever? Well, it would take me more time to produce than it would be worth. And so to be able to have a tool that would take the foundation of like 10 tips, flesh them out, create a product, create the website for selling, create the affiliate structure around it, such that, okay, there you go. You want to know how to do it? Download my ebook for $5. There you go. And I've shown you how to do it. I'll tell you how to do it. I've constructed this for you. Go to this webpage and you're done. And so I don't know if that's a startup in and of itself, but to me, it's a foundation that's a need for me as an entrepreneur. It's a need for me as a content creator. It's a need for me as someone who's very experienced, 3 decades running as an entrepreneur, as a content creator, as someone who's geeky, as someone who understands a lot of these concepts, to be able to platformatize, if I can use that as a word, the knowledge that's in my head. If I need it, my thinking is, it's always been this way, Tech Jeeper, if I need it, other people need it too. And it was the same way with MakerDeck. It was like, well, if I need this, I'm guessing other people do too. So that's always been the foundation for me behind my lifestyle types of businesses, types of projects that I've taken on.
Yeah, and that makes, you don't want to build an application that's just for you. I mean, that's not worth anything.
No, doesn't work.
So
I always try to think bigger. Always. I always try to think bigger. So speaking of, you don't have something to show on this front, but we're talking about 3D printing. You posted a screen grab of like a basic tool, just a very descriptive UI of something, and I may be describing this incorrectly, but that would help people who stream on Twitch and or MakerDeck vicariously, but Twitch in general, take the capture from their webcam, like a Bamboo webcam, and funnel it somehow.
So
give me the content. Give me deeper.
Bamboo lets you get to the web stream.
Yeah, but it's kludgy.
It's better. And if you have anything but the X1C, the stream is terrible anyways.
Yeah.
But if you have like the X1C, which I have 2 of, and I want to stream to MakerDeck, for example, you have to be able to get that. It's an FFmpeg file or whatever it is. You have to get that into a virtual webcam. The way of doing that is using OBS. So you load up OBS, you create it as a image source. You have to jump through it. You have to hope it works, because Bamboo Lab, if anything else is viewing it, it's not going to view the stream, and it's just all kinds of nightmare. And then you spin up the quote unquote virtual webcam. and you have to have OBS work running, which OBS is a terrible application. I don't know why we all still use it. It does its thing, but it doesn't seem like it does it very well. But yet the entire streaming world is built on it. So whatever. So I was like, okay, there has to be a different way of doing this. That's basically, so it's just getting that stream file into a virtual webcam is all I wanted to do. So I was like, okay, well, let's see. So following that process that I said earlier, I'm like, okay, let's see what AI can do. So I fired up Cursor, told it to build a project file. So I said, I want to create an application that takes the Bamboo Labs FFmpeg file. I was able to give it the URL to the documentation for Bamboo, so it could go out there and do its little research on its own. And I said, I want to make that a virtual webcam without needing to have OBS running. And I want it to be able to work across platforms. And it went out there and spit out a fully functioning application. So it was like, okay. I mean, it even figured out the fact that for Windows, you can do it with a couple of libraries that are available, and that works fine. On Mac OS, it's a little bit trickier. So the workaround on Mac OS is you still have to have OBS installed because it uses the plugin for the virtual webcam. There's another application that you can use too, but it was kind of shady. So I was like, I'm just going to use OBS because everybody probably already has that installed.
Yeah, standard.
So it uses the plugin, but it doesn't require OBS to be running. And all you do is just load it up. You point it to your Bamboo directory. It loads in the FFmpeg. It loads in all of the different parameters. There's like a parameter string that you have to give it's all in the Bamboo documentation. And you click Start Webcam, and it fires up a virtual webcam that you can then point StreamYard to. If you want to be on a Teams meeting and you want to share your 3D print, it makes it a webcam. So anything that uses the virtual, it basically makes your Bamboo stream into a webcam that you can use in applications.
So this is an application that's working. Yeah.
It like literally the first iteration after I told it to implement the project or implement the implementation plan that I put together, it spit out a fully working product. The only thing I did after as a second string was went out there and found an open source icon to give it because it didn't have an icon.
So is this available right now?
I haven't published it yet. No,
okay. Are you nervous?
I want to put. I'll publish it. I want to do documentation, and this past week has been completely focused on getting Printventory out because I wanted to get that out.
Yeah,
the first of the month, because this month we're going to be running we have a giveaway with Polymaker, and it's kind of running in conjunction with Rocky Mountain, and then the end of the month we're going to be doing the giveaway for the rolls of Polymaker that they donated. But now that that's done, I'm going to definitely go back and throw it up on GitHub, and anybody can download and use it. It's another one that's built in. That one's built in Electron too, surprisingly, and so it's really easy to compile it on any of the operating systems. I haven't been able to test it on Linux, but it says it's going to work on Linux, so I'm confident that it probably does.
Well, I know for MakerDeck makers, I mean, it streamlines the process.
And the only other thing that I would like to probably do eventually is give it a button to minimize to your taskbar.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So you don't actually have to have anything running. You just minimize it. You can open up StreamYard. Because that was always like the least reliable piece was, OBS would crash and then your feed would freeze. And it was like, okay, you got to restart OBS. And actually in OBS, when I was doing a lot of streaming, I haven't streamed on MakerDeck in a while, but when I was doing a lot of streaming, I actually had a macro in OBS that would reload the media source. So it would keep it active. If you were like streaming for a day, it wouldn't actually time out and freeze up on you. I don't know if they fixed that. That was just an issue that I had. That was an idea. That was kind of an example. I was like, okay, this is a pain in the rear to do. I'm sure it could benefit other people. And again, it was 5 minutes. I opened up my laptop, typed in, give me a project plan for an application that takes the Bamboo file and creates a virtual webcam.
So TechDeeper, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yep.
Going to do it. I'd like to ideate something with you. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to go anywhere. It doesn't have to be anything bigger than just the ideation process and the process of building, like what you're talking about doing. How I would, and I'll have to come up with like what the idea might be, right? Whether it's like hiring a virtual host, right, and or I don't know, another wacky media kit builder, whatever the dynamic media, whatever it is. But I'd like to actually step through that process with you and build it out in real time. I think that would just be a fascinating.
Yeah, I did that. So my wife is into like knitting and crafting and all that stuff. And after she saw Printventory, she's like, I want to build something like that for my projects. She has a lot of projects. There's things out there that do like yarn inventory and stuff like that, but she wanted to be able to tie materials to projects and not just yarn. So like fabric and all of these other things. So I'm actually working with her. And we sat down and I'm like, okay, open up, I installed Cursor on her laptop. I told her to open it up. Told her, okay, type in, just brainstorm what you want. Just start typing in all the different features you want and tell it to, then we took that file, told it to make a project file out of that, told it to make the to-do file out of that. And then she went in there and she typed in, implement phase 1, and up came a window that had, the initial UI and the different formatting and stuff like that. And so she's kind of working her way through that. I'd be more than happy to walk through and kind of do something.
I think it's worth a shot.
One of the things I recommend is when you're first learning that, don't try to boil the ocean. Don't go out there and say, I want to make a so you have to remember that it's probably not going to be able to do something that doesn't exist. So one of the things that I wanted to do initially, before my wife started working on that application, another one of her ideas was a way to visualize stitch patterns. So being able to actually take a pattern for like a crochet project or a knit project and be able to visualize that. Right now, if you look at a stitch pattern, you look at the visualization, it's a bunch of like X's, and you can't tell what the final product's going to look like.
Yeah.
So I actually started kind of playing around with it, looking to see what was out there. And AI was actually surprisingly somewhat decent at taking that stitch project and taking that pattern and turning it into a visualization. It wasn't perfect, but again, because there's not really a library, like the Printventory, there's libraries out there that let me render the STLs and the 3MF files.
Yeah.
But if you get to a certain level where the technology doesn't exist, you then have to look at, okay, well, let's build that technology first, get that fleshed out, and then go to the next step and then build the user experience. So that's the only thing that I have to recommend is, don't be too ambitious up front. Break it down into smaller steps.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
I would be more than happy. I found myself just kind of playing around and making ideas and implementing stuff. One of the other ideas that I'm working on is site like Thingiverse or printables that let you share CNC and laser files along with 3D print files, because there's not really anything for multi-material, multi-tool projects. So that's something that's actually another project that is actually on the internet right now, but doesn't have full functionality yet that I'm working on. And that was the same stepping through. And I was surprised the first iteration of that. I was like, okay, I have a UI that I can log into off the bat with AI. Now I need to start fleshing out, the file upload process and things like that. But it's surprising how, again, if you take a systematic approach to it, how powerful it can be and how easy it can be. Again, I think anybody can go in there and build something out and get it working, as long as you're not trying to do something too crazy.
Yeah, well, it's transformative, right? I mean, as you said, would you say boil the ocean?
Yeah. Don't go out there and say I want to make an application that's gonna cure cancer across the world. I mean, it's
right. Yeah.
You start small and build it up to a much broader project. So.
Well, again, I appreciate your time, your expertise, your enthusiasm, your everything, honestly, and support for the MakerDeck project has been great. What you're now doing for the greater world of makers as well, and the fact that you had picked up a few things that Matt and I were sharing even in the first couple of these. Again, I'm sticking. What's going to work? I don't know. These are the things that I love talking about. These are the things that I love doing. I want to have conversations, if only so that I can flesh out my thoughts further. And I feel even now, even talking to you tonight, I feel like I've got something that I'm like, oh, you know, I hadn't even thought about that before. In terms of lifestyle and like that being the next iteration of where we're going to be going. It's fascinating. And so I appreciate having these conversations, and I appreciate your openness and willingness and ability and your time. So thank your wife for allowing me to borrow some of your time.
Yeah, she's probably in bed by now. I'm usually asleep by like 10 p.m.
So you're which coast?
East Coast. So it's 10. It's almost 11 right now. So.
Sorry.
No, it's all
okay.
good.
So we'll start. We'll
actually, honestly, I'd probably be watching somebody's Twitch video.
Yeah, you know, that's the funny thing. It's usually how it works. So speaking of Twitch, I think I can still manually raid from Twitch. Is there anybody you want me to raid in?
I have no idea who would be on. I don't know.
I know, like,
it's almost 11, so
I'm looking at. I'm not gonna do Maker Deck. Big Jano's going.
He would probably be who I would be in if I was.
Let's go. Let's raid Big Jano then. Okay, so here's what I have to do. So, because I'm doing this by StreamYard, raid Big Jano. I've got to type it in right. B1G_JANO. Okay, so I feel I can raid Big Jano.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, so I mean, in the future, if you come up with an idea, yeah, let's set up a stream and let's walk through.
Okay, let's do it, because I've got, like I said, I mean, I
can't guarantee it'll actually work, but we'll see.
No, but it doesn't matter. It's the process.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it has to work. It's just the process of doing it that I feel is just as informative. Learning how to do it, learning how to be an entrepreneur, and that to me, that discovery is. I don't want to be the expert in everything, right? I just want to be able to be the delivery vehicle to be able to have these conversations. Hence, framing it like learn how to be an entrepreneur. That's what this is about. So we were successful. We nailed it, and now we're going to be rating Big Jano. I think did it work? Is it? I am
not on Twitch, so I don't know.
It's hard for me to. I'm looking at Twitch right now. I'm like, raid has worked differently, but it said used raid. But I don't have like a countdown anymore.
It says it's rating with 12 raiders. It looks like it's still in progress.
You're seeing it? I don't see it on my dashboard. That's crazy. Okay,
so I think it's still going.
Oh, there we go. 13 ratings. Okay. All right, everybody on Twitch, you're going to be rating over to Big Janos. Tell them we said hello. Give a big shout out to Tech Jeeper and the Printventory program, pushing him to push this other conduit for these local webcams out to help makers, push the cameras from their existing 3D printers out to the greater webs. The interwebs, as it were. Well, Tech Cheaper, I got a notification from my Schnauzer group.
I think you're rated. I think you're good.
We did it go?
You're no longer on Twitch. So.
All right, sweet. It did go?
Yeah, I think so.
It went? Okay, good. I want to make sure, because I forgot the past few weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to raid. I'm an idiot. It's the one thing you got to do on Twitch is freaking raid.
Yeah, you don't want Pez Liz to yell at you.
Well, what else is new? She was yelling at me a decade ago. I learned to ignore it. Like, she sounds like I love her to death, but like it's the peanuts. Wah, 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 wah. I'm just gonna do crazy shit over here. Anyway, thank you for again for your time. And
yeah, no problem. This was a good conversation. I love this stuff. So.
I love talking about this stuff. And I love carving out the time to be able to talk about this stuff. And even if we don't understand everything, like you may not have my background, I may not have your background. It's ultimately kind of coming together, having interesting conversations. And you never know what comes of it. So.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll think up and we'll figure out a time to step through something.
We will. Like I said, I'll think a little further about like what would be the top.
Yeah.
Burning...
So the thing that I told my wife is just start taking notes.
Yeah.
Just brain dump everything you
trust
can
me,
for the idea.
I've done that.
Because it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter the structure, doesn't matter the format. You just load that in and AI magically figures out what's going on in your head. So
usually.
Yeah. Well, then you just tune it. So and that's the next step after you create the project file is you step through it and clean it up a little bit, which I think you were doing with Matt early on when you had the huge requirements document.
It was largely guided. So coming out like he had the foundation, like, oh, you need to be able to figure out what you're planning before you actually do it. I'm like, I don't know. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Everything you're saying makes sense, but like, where's the point click? Where's the drag drop? You know, that's me. I'm the idiot.
Cool.
All right.
Awesome.
Well,
have a good night.
You're the anti-idiot. Thank you again, Cody, for spending time, and thanks again for all your help.